Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's fantastic that you're here. Well, and trust you enjoyed my last video on Billy Idol, in particular his song Dancing with Myself. And I talked about the fact that sometimes when things happen, we may need to have some time on our own to reflect and to get the learnings that we need to learn from what has happened. So I trust you enjoyed that one because Billy Idol is one of the wild boys of rock, and so I really quite enjoy Billy Idol. He's got a compelling style about him. Well, we go from there to another Billy today. And today, I suppose, we're talking about a music industry legend today. And I suppose, given this guy's first name is Billy, you might actually know where I'm headed. But I've hit a bit of history about him. From 1971 to 2001, he has sold 13, he has had 13 albums, a few greatest hits albums, and he has sold 150 million albums, which is one of the biggest in the world and certainly the third biggest solo artist in the US of all time. In fact, he had a greatest hits album that sold 23 million copies on its own. So that's how regarded and how popular this guy actually is. He's interestingly received 7 honorary doctorates through American universities. He's received 5 Grammy Awards. In 1993, he was inducted into the Madison Square Garden Hall of Fame. One of the few entertainers to actually make that particular cut, which is pretty cool. In 1999, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by his major influence, Ray Charles. In 2004, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and in 2013, he was honoured by the Kennedy Center in the US, which is a very high honour for a muso indeed. In fact, there's really amazing performances from the Kennedy Center honours, so it's worth having a look at those. And so, of course, the guy I'm talking about today is Billy Joel. Now, you try to put Billy Joel into a genre, good luck with that one. He has influences of jazz, influences of rhythm and blues, influences of pop, influences of ballads, influences of rock, even influences of progressive rock in there. Billy Joel isn't part of a genre, he is a genre. Very, very unique in the world, and given that he is a major songwriter, very talented guy indeed. His vocals are incredible. He has an amazing range. He can actually accomplish all sorts of tones and nuances in his voice to capture the songs he needs to sing. And his piano playing is amazing. Trust me, this guy deserves the accolades he has received. He is the all-round entertainer. In fact, I was very fortunate to see Billy Joel in Adelaide when he came a few years back. And I was sitting behind the stage and I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be interesting. But towards the start of the show, a piano popped up at the back of the stage and we got to see Billy Joel really, really close indeed. In fact, in the paper the following day, the reviewers said everybody was really envious of those that were behind the stage. So, a truly memorable concert, one that I will always remember and one that has inspired me in my own music a great deal. So thank you, Billy Joel, for coming to Adelaide. It was great when you were here. Really, really good. Of course, there are many songs Billy Joel has had. You know, You May Be Right, Stranger is Still Rock and Roll to Me, Captain Jack, and she's Still Like a Woman to Me. And there's so many songs. I'm going to get on to a few more in a minute, but he's had so many hits. Every song that he seems to put on his albums becomes a hit. So Billy Joel is the all-round compelling performer and songwriter that he is. And of course, we can't talk about Billy Joel without talking about his 1973 breakthrough song, Piano Man. Of course, even though he'd been going slightly before this is the song that made him a worldwide name. And, the characters in this story are pretty well known. We've got John at the bar, who's a friend and gives him his drinks for free. We've got Davy, who is still in the Navy, and we've got Paul, who's a real estate novelist and never had time for a wife, and we've got a guy making love to his tonic and gin. You can just picture the scene. In fact, later I've got the official clip which actually shows these stories really, really well. And you may recall a little while back when I did the Billy Field video, and I talked about this guy called Conrad, who was a bit of a ladies' man, but he was now desperately alone. Because, of course, one of the things about Piano Man is that they're sharing a drink they call loneliness, because it's better than drinking alone. And I said at the time I was probably going to bring Conrad, who was a ladies' man and just wanted to get on with women whenever he could and didn't listen to friends who were telling him and otherwise. Conrad's in this story as well. And he's just sitting there wondering what on earth has gone on and why am I in a place such as this. But the great thing about Billy Joel in this particular clip is the way he just lifts everybody's spirits and makes them a bit of a community, which is what music can do. But I often wonder what happens to dreams like these. I'm sure, John talks about the fact that he wanted to go become a movie star, but he's still tending bars. I mean, what happened there? We've got Paul, a real estate novelist. He's never had time for a wife, but he's lonely, and I'm sure he's regretting that decision right now. Or Davy, who's still in the Navy. Gee, I wonder how many years he's been in the Navy for, and he's probably never going to get out. And then we had this guy who's making love to his tonic and gin. And then we got Conrad in there, who is desperately lonely after making mistakes when he was younger. What's happened to these guys, do we think? At what point did they go, there, let's make the world the best we can, and let's make our lives the best we can, to, well, we've almost given up. We're just going to stay where we are and not bother to change. When does that transition happen from, yeah, let's go, to it's all too hard? Don't actually know. I think maybe our priorities go towards us being more by ourselves than with other people, and so we miss that friendship and companionship. Certainly, I think not settling down and getting married, I think there's something in that. There's something cool about the stability and comfort that marriage brings to people. And, if you're choosing to think, well, I'm not going to get married because I want my freedom, well, the freedom becomes a cage down the track, as these guys are finding. They're a cage in this thing called loneliness. So, yeah, I don't know what age this happens. It probably varies for everyone. But I'm thinking certainly in your early 20s, the life is your oyster, and you're going for it and you're having a really, really cool time. But as you start to reach that 30-year-old mark, and maybe even the 40-year-old mark, you're starting to think, well, maybe life needs to be different. And I think maybe at that choice you either decide to ignore it and just hope it'll go away, or to embrace the change. And I think for those who have embraced the change, they've enjoyed the benefit of making that change, whereas those who think will just ignore it get the consequences, and that is being in bars like this one. I mean, how great to be listening to Billy Joel every night and to hear his songs and his piano as a carnival and all the rest, but they're lonely, and there may be no answer for these guys. So I think the trick is right now that if you are in this transition between, the cool, carefree days to realising that life is perhaps a bit more than that, you've got two options really. One is to make some changes and to enjoy the benefits that may come from those changes, or to ignore them altogether and maybe find yourself in one of these bars. It could be that, you did, embrace a settling down period and that didn't go so well for you and you're still in one of these bars. But I think the thing is that you know what it means to have this relationship, and surely there would have been some good things in it. And so you've experienced something different. So why would you want to go back to where you were before? It can be really, really hard to make change. We hate change. We really, really don't like making change, and our brains definitely don't like change. In fact, there's a part of our brain that just is interested in the next 20 minutes. And if it kept us safe for the last 20 minutes, well, it'll just roll that over for another 20 minutes and another 20 minutes and another 20 minutes. So, if a daily ritual is going to a bar like this, well, your brain's thinking, this is a safe place to go, so let's just keep going back there. It needs another part of your brain, your thinking brain, to come over the top and say, hang on a minute, no, we need to make changes. And so, really, really hard to change. But if you are facing this transition right now where life is either going to be lonely or it's not, the real urgency from this video is to make the change, to actually embrace life for all it can be. There was a great series on telly a little while back called How I Met Your Mother, and Barney Stinson, who was the womanizer, had the playbook and all the rest of it. He was starting to feel this, and fortunately for Barney, at the very, very end of the series, and I'm assuming everybody's seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's a spoiler alert. But at the end, he does get a girl pregnant, and he sees his baby. And at that point, he says, "Whatever you want is yours." He gave up all of the womanizing and everything else because this child changed his life forever. And this guy was a staunch womanizer. He was really in the zone the whole time, wore the suit wherever he went. But life caught up with him and he had to make changes. So it is possible, even though that's a fictional character. I think if you are facing this transition right now, pick settling down as opposed to remaining free. Free is a bit of a strange word to use here because it's probably not freedom at all. In a sense, what you're doing, if you choose to stay the way you are, is you're choosing to lock the cage and lock the door, and it might be very, very, very hard to get out of because routine will just take over. So something to think about today, and thank you, Billy Joel, for providing this excellent this way of being able to provide some commentary about his awesome song Piano Man. And so I hope that will be an encouragement to you. I really, really do. Well, on to the clips, and I suppose because it is Billy Joel, we need to do a few. In fact, there's got to be 4 songs, and all of the links are in the description below, so you'll see them all there. We do have Piano Man, and that's the official clip that came from the 1973 album of the same name. So here you'll see all the characters, John and Davy and Paul. You won't see Conrad. That was a guy that I just put in there because of a previous video I did. But you will sort of see those guys. We then also got New York State of Mind, which is kind of a bit of a jazz version of Billy Joel. That came off the 1976 movie album Turnstiles, and that's a live version. So feel free to have a look at that one. A typical cabaret Billy Joel style. He absolutely nails a live performance of that particular song. New York State of Mind, I think that just captures New York so beautifully in so many different ways. State of mind. We then got, probably more along the progressive rock stage, we've got this song Running on Ice. I'm not going anywhere because I'm running on ice and it's slippery, but I'm still running. That came off the 1986 album The Bridge. And I'd say it's a little bit more progressive rock for Billy Joel. I love the chord progressions in that particular song, so I had to include that one. That's a live version of that particular song. Yes, he's looking a little bit older here. And you can see that he can still play and sing as if he was younger. And I thought I'd also include, because this song got a lot of airplay, particularly in schools, because it was basically a history lesson for the last few decades. And this is a song, We Didn't Start the Fire. And that came off the 1989 album Stormfront. And that's the official clip, because it kind of just makes sense to actually put that one in there as well. So feel free to look at all of those, or one of them, or whatever, but they're all in the description below. And I've also included, because I did talk about this guy called Conrad, I thought I would just put the commentary from my Billy Field video in there, because if you want to catch up on who on earth Conrad was and how did he get to this bar, well, I'll put that one there for you as well. So feel free to have a look at that one. And also, just as an extra bonus, if you want to look at Billy Idol from last time, feel free to look at that one as well. So it's a little bit to look at there, but you decide what you want to look at and what you don't. It's totally up to you. So so thank you. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for hanging around. If you got to this point, it's fantastic, very encouraging to see that people are hanging around. And yeah, so thank you for doing that. I appreciate you very, very much for coming back for another one. So thank you very much. Very, very, very good indeed. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to go on to, I suppose, soul, pop, crooner, Billy Ocean. So until then, I'll catch you around.